Hello. For about an hour today, I'm going to read some things that I think have really good rhythm. I hope you can hear it too. This is Whitman's Once I Passed Through a Populous City. Once I passed through a populous city, imprinting my brain for future use with its shows, architecture, customs, traditions. Yet now, of all that city, I remember only a woman I casually met there, who detained me for love of me. Day by day and night by night we were together. All else has long been forgotten by me. I remember, I say, only that woman who passionately clung to me. Again we wander, we love, we separate again. Again she holds me by the hand. I must not go. I see her close beside me with silent lips, sad and tremulous. This is Whitman's Song of the Open Road. Afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road. Healthy, free, the world before me, the long brown path before me, leading wherever I choose. Henceforth I ask not good fortune. I myself am good fortune. Henceforth I whimper no more, postpone no more, need nothing. Done with indoor complaints, libraries, querulous criticisms, strong and content, I travel the open road. The earth, that is sufficient. I do not want the constellations any nearer. I know they are very well where they are. I know they suffice for those who belong to them. Still here I carry my old delicious burdens. I carry them, men and women. I carry them with me wherever I go. I swear it is impossible for me to get rid of them. I am filled with them, and I fill them in return. You road I enter upon and look around. I believe you are not all that is here. I believe that much unseen is also here. Here the profound lesson of reception, nor preference nor denial, the black with his woolly head, the felon, the diseased, the illiterate person are not denied. The birth, the hasting after the physician, the beggar's tramp, the drunkard's stagger, the laughing party of mechanics, the escaped youth, the rich man's carriage, the fop, the eloping couple, the early market man, the hearse, the moving of furniture into the town, the return back from the town, they pass. I also pass. Anything passes. None can be interdicted. None but are accepted. None but shall be dear to me. You air that serves me with breath to speak. You objects that call from diffusion my meanings and give them shape. You light that wraps me and all things in delicate, equable showers. You paths worn in the irregular hollows by the roadsides, I believe you are latent with unseen existences. You are so dear to me. You flagged walks of cities, you strong curbs at the edges, you ferries, you planks and posts of wharves, you timber-lined sides, you distant ships, you rows of houses, you window-pierced facades, you roofs, you porches and entrances, you copings and iron guards, you windows whose transparent shells might expose so much, you doors and ascending steps, you arches, you grey stones of intermal pavements, you trodden crossings, from all that has touched you, I believe you have imparted to yourselves, and now would impart the same secretly to me. From the living and the dead you have peopled your impassive surfaces, and the spirits thereof would be evident and amicable with me. The earth expanding right hand and left hand, the picture alive, every part in its best light, the music falling in where it is wanted, and stopping where it is not wanted, the cheerful voice of the public road, the gay, fresh sentiment of the road. O highway I travel, do you say to me, do not leave me? Do you say, venture not, if you leave me you are lost? Do you say, I am already prepared, I am well beaten and undenied, adhere to me? O public road, I say back, I am not afraid to leave you, yet I love you. You express me better than I can express myself. You shall be more to me than my poem. I think heroic deeds were all conceived of in the open air, and all free poems also. I think I could stop here myself and do miracles. I think whatever I shall meet on the road I shall like. And whoever beholds me shall like me. I think whoever I see must be happy. From this hour I ordain myself loosed of limits and imaginary lines, going where I list, my own master, total and absolute, listening to others, considering well what they say, pausing, searching, receiving, contemplating gently, but with undeniable will, divesting myself of the holds that would hold me. I inhale great draughts of space. The east and the west are mine, and the north and the south are mine. I am larger, better than I thought. I did not know I held so much goodness. All seems beautiful to me. I can repeat over to men and women, you have done such good to me. I would do the same to you. I will recruit for myself. And you, as I go, I will scatter myself among men and women as I go. I will toss a new gladness and roughness among them. Whoever denies me, it shall not trouble me. Whoever accepts me, he or she shall be blessed, and shall bless me. Now, if 1,000 perfect men were to appear, it would not amaze me. Now, if 1,000 beautiful forms of women appeared, it would not astonish me. Now I see the secret of the making of the best poems. It is to grow in the open air, and to eat and sleep with the earth. Here a great personal deed has room. Such a deed seizes upon the hearts of the whole race of men. Its effusion of strength and will overwhelms law and mocks all authority and all argument against it. Here is the test of wisdom. Wisdom is not finally tested in schools. Wisdom cannot be passed from one having it to another not having it. Wisdom is of the soul, is not susceptible of proof, is its own proof, applies to all stages and objects and qualities, and is content, is the certainty of the reality and immortality of things and the excellence of things. Something there is in the float of the sight of things that provokes it out of the soul. Now I re-examine philosophies and religions. They may prove well in lecture rooms, yet not prove at all under the spacious clouds and along the landscape and flowing currents. Here is realization. Here is a man tallied. He realizes here what he has in him. The past, the future, majesty, love. If they are vacant of you, you are vacant of them. Only the kernel of every object nourishes. Where is he who tears off the husks for you and me? Where is he that undoes stratagems and envelops for you and me? Here is adhesiveness. It is not previously fashioned. It is apropos. Do you know what it is as you pass to be loved by strangers? Do you know the talk of those turning eyeballs? Here is the efflux of the soul. The efflux of the soul comes from within, through embowered gates, ever-provoking questions. These yearnings, why are they? These thoughts in the darkness, why are they? Why are there men and women that while they are nigh me, the sunlight expands my blood? Why, when they leave me, do my pennants of joy sink flat and lank? Why are there trees I never walk under, but large and melodious thoughts descend upon me? I think they hang there winter and summer on those trees, and always drop fruit as I pass. Why is it I interchange so suddenly with strangers? What with some driver as I ride on the seat by his side? What with some fisherman drawing his seine by the shore as I walk by and pause? What gives me to be free to a woman's and man's goodwill? What gives them to be free to mine? The efflux of the soul is happiness. Here is happiness. I think it pervades the open air, waiting at all times. Now it flows unto us. We are rightly charged. Here rises the fluid and detaching character. The fluid and detaching character is the freshness and sweetness of man and woman. The herbs of the morning sprout no fresher and sweeter every day out of the roots of themselves than it sprouts fresh and sweet continually out of itself. Toward the fluid and detaching character exudes the sweat of the love of young and old. From it falls distilled the charm that mocks beauty and attainments. Toward it heaves the shuddering, longing ache of contact. Allons! Whoever you are, come travel with me. Traveling with me, you find what never tires. The earth never tires. The earth is rude, silent, incomprehensible at first. Nature is rude and incomprehensible at first. Be not discouraged. Keep on. There are divine things well enveloped. I swear to you there are divine things more beautiful than words can tell. Allons! We must not stop here. However sweet these laid-up stores, however convenient this dwelling, we cannot remain here. However sheltered this port, and however calm these waters, we must not anchor here. However welcome the hospitality that surrounds us, we are here permitted to receive it but a little while. Allons! The inducements shall be greater. We will sail pathless and wild seas. We will go where winds blow, waves dash, and the Yankee clipper speeds by under full sail. Allons! With power, liberty, the earth, the elements, health, defiance, gaiety, self-esteem, curiosity. Allons! From all formules, from your formules, O bat-eyed and materialistic priests. The stale cadaver blocks up the passage. The burial waits no longer. Allons, yet take warning. He traveling with me needs the best blood, thews endurance. None may come to the trial till he or she bring courage and health. Come not here if you have already spent the best of yourself. Only those may come who come in sweet and determined bodies. No diseased person, no rum drinker, or venereal taint is permitted here. I and mine do not convince by arguments, similes, rhymes. We convince by our presence. Listen, I will be honest with you. I do not offer the old smooth prizes, but offer rough new prizes. These are the days that must happen to you. You shall not heap up what is called riches. You shall scatter with lavish hand all that you earn or achieve. You but arrive at the city to wish you were destined, you hardly settle yourself to satisfaction before you are called by an irresistible call to depart. You shall be treated to the ironical smiles and mockings of those who remain behind you. What beckonings of love you receive, you shall only answer with passionate kisses of parting. You shall not allow the hold of those who spread their reached hands toward you. Allons! After the great companions, and to belong to them. They, too, are on the road. They are the swift and majestic men. They are the greatest women. Enjoyers of calm of seas and storms of seas, sailors of many a ship, walkers of many a mile of land, habitués of many distant countries, habitués of far distant dwellings, trusters of men and women, observers of cities, solitary toilers, pausers and contemplators of tufts, blossoms, shells of the shore, dancers at wedding dances, kissers of brides, tender helpers of children, bearers of children, soldiers of revolts, standards by gaping graves, lowerers down of coffins, journeyers over consecutive seasons, over the years, the curious years, each emerging from that which preceded it, journeyers as with companions, namely, their own diverse phases, fourth steppers from the latent unrealized baby days, journeyers gaily with their own youth, journeyers with their bearded and well-grained manhood, journeyers with their womanhood, ample, unsurpassed, content, journeyers with their own sublime old age of manhood or womanhood, old age, calm, expanded, broad, with the haughty breadth of the universe, old age, flowing free with the delicious nearby freedom of death. Allons, to that which is endless, as it was beginningless, to undergo much, tramps of days, rests of nights, to merge all in the travel they tend to, and the days and nights they tend to. Again, to merge them in the start of superior journeys, to see nothing anywhere but what you may reach it and pass it, to conceive no time, however distant, but what you may reach it and pass it, to look up or down no road, but it stretches and waits for you, however long, but it stretches and waits for you, to see no being, not God's or any, but you also go thither, to see no possession, but you may possess it, enjoying all without labor or purchase, abstracting the feast, yet not abstracting one particle of it, to take the best of the farmer's farm, and the rich man's elegant villa, and the chaste blessings of the well-married couple, and the fruits of orchards and flowers of gardens, to take to your use out of the compact cities as you pass through, to carry buildings and streets with you afterward wherever you go, to gather the minds of men out of their brains as you encounter them, to gather the love out of their hearts, to take your lovers on the road with you, for all that you leave them behind you, to know the universe itself as a road, as many roads, as roads for traveling souls, all parts a way for the progress of souls, all religion, all solid things, arts, governments, all that was or is apparent upon this globe or any globe, falls into niches and corners before the procession of souls along the grand roads of the universe, of the progression of the souls of men and women along the grand roads of the universe. All other progress is the needed emblem and sustenance. Forever alive, forever forward, stately, solemn, sad, withdrawn, baffled, mad, turbulent, feeble, dissatisfied, desperate, proud, fond, sick, accepted by men, rejected by men, they go, They go. I know that they go, but I know not where they go, but I know that they go toward the best, toward something great. Whoever you are, come forth. Or man or woman, come forth. You must not stay sleeping and dallying there in the house, though you built it, or though it has been built for you. Out of the dark confinement, out from behind the screen. It is useless to protest. I know all and expose it. Behold, through you as bad as the rest, through the laughter, dancing, dining, supping of people, inside of dresses and ornaments, inside of those washed and trim faces, behold a secret, silent loathing and despair. No husband, no wife, no friend trusted to hear the confession. Another self, a duplicate of every one, skulking and hiding, it goes, formless and wordless, through the streets of the cities, polite and bland in the parlors, in the cars of railroads, in steamboats, in the public assembly, home to the house of men and women, at the table, in the bedroom, everywhere. Smartly attired, countenance smiling, form upright, death under the breastbones, hell under the skull bones, under the broadcloth and gloves, under the ribbons and artificial flowers, keeping fair with the custom, speaking not a syllable of itself, speaking of anything else but never of itself. Allons! Through struggles and wars, the goal that was named cannot be countermanded. Have the past struggles succeeded? What has succeeded? Yourself? Your nation? Nature? Now understand me well. It is provided in the essence of things that from any fruition of success, no matter what, shall come forth something to make a greater struggle necessary. My call is the call of battle. I nourish active rebellion. He going with me must go well armed. He going with me goes often with spare diet, poverty, angry enemies, desertions. Allons. The road is before us. It is safe. I have tried it. My own feet have tried it well. Be not detained. Let the paper remain on the desk unwritten, and the book on the shelf unopened. Let the tools remain in the workshop. Let the money remain unearned. Let the school stand. Mind not the cry of the teacher. Let the preacher preach in his pulpit. Let the lawyer plead in the court, and the judge expound the law. Camarado, I give you my hand. I give you my love, more precious than money. I give you myself before preaching or law. Will you give me yourself? Will you come travel with me? Shall we stick by each other as long as we live? This is Sunflower Sutra by Allen Ginsberg. I walked on the banks of the Tin Can Banana Dock and sat under the huge shade of a Southern Pacific locomotive to look at the sunset over the Boxhouse Hills and cry. Jack Kerouac sat beside me on a busted, rusty iron pole. Companion, we thought the same thoughts of the soul, bleak and blue and sad-eyed, surrounded by the gnarled steel roots of trees of machinery. The oily water on the river mirrored the red sky. Sun sank. On top of final Frisco peaks, no fish in that stream, no hermit in those mounts, just ourselves, rheumy-eyed and hung-over like old bums on the riverbank, tired and wily. Look at the sunflower, he said. There was a dead gray shadow against the sky, big as a man, sitting dry on top of a pile of ancient sawdust. I rushed up, enchanted. It was my first sunflower. Memories of Blake, my visions, Harlem and hells of eastern rivers, bridges, clanking joes, greasy sandwiches, dead baby carriages, black treadless tires forgotten and untreaded. The poem of the riverbank, condoms and pots, steel knives, nothing stainless, only the dank muck of the razor-sharp artifacts passing into the past, and the gray sunflower poised against the sunset, crackly, bleak and dusty, with the smut and smog and smoke of olden locomotives in its eye, corolla of bleary spikes pushed down and broken like a battered crown, seeds fallen out of its face, soon to be toothless, mouth of sunny air, sun rays obliterated on its hairy head like a dried wire spider web, leaves stuck out like arms out of the stem, gestures from the sawdust root, broke pieces of plaster fallen out of the black twigs, a dead fly in its ear. Unholy, battered old thing, you were my sunflower. Oh, my soul, I loved you then. The grime was no man's grime, but death and human locomotives. All that dress of dust, that veil of darkened railroad skin, that smog of cheek, that eyelid of black misery, that sooty hand or phallus or protuberance of artificial worse than dirt, industrial, modern, all that civilization spotting your crazy golden crown. And those blear thoughts of death and dusty, loveless eyes and ends and withered roots below, and the home pile of sand and sawdust, rubber dollar bills, skin of machinery, the guts and innards of the weeping coughing car, the empty, lonely tin cans with their rusty tongues alack. What more could I name? The smoke, ashes of some cock cigar, and cunts of wheelbarrows, and the milky breasts of cars, worn-out asses of chairs, and sphincters of dynamos, all these entangled in your mummied roots, and you there, standing before me in the sunset, all your glory in your form, a perfect beauty of a sunflower. A perfect, excellent, lovely sunflower existence, a sweet, natural eye to the new hit moon, woke up, alive and excited, grasping in the sunset shadow, sunrise, golden monthly breeze. How many flies buzzed round you and innocent of your grime, while you cursed the heavens of the railroad and your flower soul? Poor dead flower, when did you forget you were a flower? When did you look at your skin and decide you were an impotent, dirty old locomotive, the ghost of a locomotive, the specter and shady of a once powerful, bad American locomotive? You were never no locomotive, sunflower. You were a sunflower, and you, locomotive, you are a locomotive. Forget me not. So I grabbed up the skeleton thick sunflower and stuck it by my side like a scepter, and delivered my sermon to my soul, and Jack's soul too, and anyone who'll listen. We're not our skin of grime. We're not our dread, bleaky, dusty, imageless locomotive. We're all beautiful golden sunflowers inside. We're blessed by our own seed in goldy, hairy, naked accomplishment bodies growing into mad black formulous sunflowers in the sunset, spied on by our eyes under the shadow of the mad locomotive riverbank sunset Frisco hilly tin can evening sit-down vision. This is Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It little profits that an idle king, by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal laws unto a savage race, that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel, I will drink life to the lees. All times have I enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone. On shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy Hyades vex the dim sea, I am become a name. For always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known. Cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honored of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met. Yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence. Something more, the bringer of new things, and vile it were for those 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this gray spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle. Well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labor, by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties, decent not to fail in offices of tenderness and pay, meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. There lies the port. The vessel puffs her sail. There gloom the dark, broad seas. My mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine and opposed free hearts, free foreheads. You and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all. But something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. The long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows, for my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be that we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will. To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. This next one is not a poem. It's Joan Didion's essay. John Wayne, a love song. In the summer of 1943, I was 8, and my father and mother and small brother and I were at Peterson Field in Colorado Springs. A hot wind blew through that summer, blew until it seemed that before August broke, all the dust in Kansas would be in Colorado, would have drifted over the tar paper barracks and the temporary strip and stopped only when it hit Pike's Peak. There was not much to do a summer like that. There was the day they brought in the first B-29, an event to remember but scarcely a vacation program. There was an officers' club but no swimming pool. All the officers' club had of interest was artificial blue rain behind the bar. The rain interested me a good deal, but I could not spend the summer watching it. And so we went, my brother and I, to the movies. We went 3 and 4 afternoons a week, sat on folding chairs in the darkened Quonset hut, which served as a theater, and it was there that summer of 1943, while the hot wind blew outside, that I first saw John Wayne. Saw the walk, heard the voice. Heard him tell the girl in a picture called War of the Wildcats that he would build her a house at the bend in the river where the cottonwoods grow. As it happened, I did not grow up to be the kind of woman who is the heroine in a Western, and although the men I have known have had many virtues and have taken me to live in many places I have come to love, they have never been John Wayne. And they have never taken me to that bend in the river where the cottonwoods grow, deep in that part of my heart where the artificial rain forever falls. That is the line I wait to hear. I tell you this neither in the spirit of self-revelation nor as an exercise in total recall, but simply to demonstrate that when John Wayne rode through my childhood and perhaps through yours, he determined forever the shape of certain of our dreams. It did not seem possible that such a man could fall ill, could carry within him that most inexplicable and ungovernable of diseases. The rumor struck some obscure anxiety through our very childhoods into question. In John Wayne's world, John Wayne was supposed to give the orders. Let's ride, he said, and saddle up, and forward ho, and a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Hello there, he said, when he first saw the girl in a construction camp, or on a train, or just sitting around on the front porch waiting for somebody to ride up through the tall grass. When John Wayne spoke, there was no mistaking his intentions. He had a sexual authority so strong that even a child could perceive it. And in a world we understood early to be characterized by venality and doubt and paralyzing ambiguities, he suggested another world, one which may or may not have existed ever, but in any case existed no more, a place where a man could move free, could make his own code and live by it, a world in which if a man did what he had to do, he could one day take the girl and go riding through the draw and find himself home free, not in a hospital, with something going wrong inside, not in a high bed with flowers and the drugs and the forced smiles, but there at the bend in the bright river, the cottonwood shimmering in the early morning sun. Hello there. Where did he come from? Before the tall grass. Even his history seemed right, for it was no history at all, nothing to intrude upon the dream. Born Marion Morrison in Winterset, Iowa, the son of a druggist. Moved as a child to Lancaster, California, part of the migration to the Promised Land, sometimes called the West Coast of Iowa. Not that Lancaster was the promise fulfilled. Lancaster was a town in the Mojave where the dust blew through. But Lancaster was still California, and it was only a year from there to Glendale, where desolation had a different flavor. Anti-macassars among the orange groves, a middle-class prelude to Forest Lawn. Imagine Marion Morrison in Glendale, a Boy Scout, when a student at Glendale High, a tackle for USC at Sigma Chi, summer vacations, a job moving props on the old Fox lot. There, a meeting with John Ford, one of the several directors who were to sense that into this perfect mold might be poured the inarticulate longings of a nation, wondering at just what pass the trail had been lost. "Damn it," said Raoul Walsh later, "the son of a bitch looked like a man." And so, after a while, the boy from Glendale became a star. He did not become an actor, as he was always been careful to point out to interviewers. How many times do I gotta tell you, I don't act at all, I react. But a star, and the star called John Wayne, would spend most of the rest of his life with one or another of those directors, out on some forsaken location in search of the dream. Out where the skies are a trifle bluer, out where friendships are a little truer, that's where the West begins. Nothing very bad could happen in the dream. Nothing a man could not face down. But something did. There it was, the rumor, and after a while, the headlines. "I licked the big C," John Wayne announced, as John Wayne would, reducing those outlaw cells to the level of any other outlaws. But even so, we all sensed that this would be the one unpredictable confrontation, the one shootout Wayne could lose. I have as much trouble as the next person with illusion and reality, and I did not much want to see John Wayne when he must be, or so I thought, having some trouble with it himself. But I did. And it was down in Mexico, when he was making the picture his illness had so long delayed, down in the very country of the dream. It was John Wayne's 165th picture. It was Henry Hathaway's 84th. It was number 34 for Dean Martin, who was working off an old contract to Hal Wallace, for whom it was independent production number 65. It was called The Sons of Katie Elder, and it was a Western. And after the 3-month delay, they had finally shot the exteriors up in Durango, and now they were in the waning days of the interior shooting at a studio, Churubusco, outside Mexico City, and the sun was hot, and the air was clear, and it was lunchtime. Out under the pepper trees, the boys from the Mexican crew sat around sucking caramels, and down the road, some of the technical men sat around a place which served a stuffed lobster and a glass of tequila for $1 American. But it was inside the cavernous, empty commissary where the talent sat around, the reasons for the exercise, all sitting around the big table, picking at huevos con queso and Carta Blanca beer. Dean Martin, unshaven. Matt Gray, who goes where Martin goes. Bob Goodfried, who was in charge of Paramount publicity, and who had flown down to arrange for a trailer, and who had a delicate stomach. Tea and toast, he warned repeatedly, that's the ticket. You can trust the lettuce. And Henry Hathaway, the director, who did not seem to be listening to Gottfried, and John Wayne, who did not seem to be listening to anyone. "This week's gone slow," Dean Martin said for the 3rd time. "How can you say that?" Matt Gray demanded. "This week's gone slow. That's how I can say it. You don't mean you want it to end." "I'll say it right out, Mac. I want it to end tomorrow night. I shave this beard. I head for the airport. I say adios, amigos. Bye-bye, muchachos." Henry Hathaway lit a cigar and patted Martin's arm fondly. "Not tomorrow, Dino." "Henry, what are you planning to add? A world war?" Hathaway patted Martin's arm again and gazed into the middle distance. At the end of the table, someone mentioned a man who, some years before, had tried unsuccessfully to blow up an airplane. "He's still in jail," Hathaway said suddenly. "In jail?" Martin was momentarily distracted from the question whether to send his golf clubs back with Bob Gottfried or consign them to Matt Gray. "What's he in jail for if nobody got killed?" "Attempted murder, Dino," Hathaway said gently. "A felony." "You mean some guy just tried to kill me? He'd end up in jail?" Hathaway removed the cigar from his mouth and looked across the table. "Some guy just tried to kill me? He wouldn't end up in jail. How about you, Duke?" Very slowly, the object of Hathaway's query wiped his mouth, pushed back his chair, and stood up. It was the real thing. The authentic article, the move which had climaxed 1,000 scenes on 165 flickering frontiers and phantasmagoric battlefields before, and it was about to climax, this one, in the commissary at Estudio Churubusco outside Mexico City. Right, John Wayne drawled. I'd kill him. Almost all the cast of Katie Elder had gone home that last week. Only the principals were left, Wayne and Martin and Earl Holliman and Michael Anderson Jr. and Martha Heyer. Martha Heyer was not around much, but every now and then someone referred to her usually as the girl. They had all been together 9 weeks, 6 of them in Durango. Mexico City was not quite Durango. Wives liked to come along to places like Mexico City, liked to shop for handbags, go to parties at Merle Oberon Pagalia's, liked to look at her paintings. But Durango, the very name hallucinates. Man's country, out where the West begins. There had been ahuhute trees in Durango, a waterfall, rattlesnakes. There had been weather, nights so cold that they had postponed 1 or 2 exteriors until they could shoot inside a Churubusco. It was the girl, they explained. You couldn't keep the girl out in the cold like that. Henry Hathaway had cooked in Durango, gazpacho and ribs, and the steaks that Dean Martin had ordered flown down from the sands. He had wanted to cook in Mexico City, but the management of the Hotel Bamer refused to let him set up a brick barbecue in his room. You really miss something, Durango, they would say, sometimes joking and sometimes not, until it became a refrain. Eden lost. But if Mexico City was not Durango, neither was it Beverly Hills. No one else was using Churubusco that week, and there inside the big sound stage that said Los Hijos de Katie Elder on the door, there with the pepper trees and the bright sun outside, they could still, for just so long as the picture lasted, maintain a world peculiar to men who like to make westerns, a world of loyalties and fond raillery, of sentiment and shared cigars, of interminable desultory recollections, campfire talk. Its only point to keep a human voice raised against the night, the wind, the rustlings of the brush. Stuntman got hit accidentally on a picture of mine once, Hathaway would say, between takes of an elaboratory choreographed fight scene. What was his name? Married Estelle Taylor. Met her down in Arizona. The circle would close around him. The cigars would be fingered. The delicate art of the staged fight was to be contemplated. I only hit one guy in my life, Wayne would say. Accidentally, I mean. That was Mike Mazurki. Some guy. Hey, Duke, says he only hit one guy in his life. Mike Mazurki. Some choice, murmurings assent. It wasn't a choice, it was an accident. I can believe it. You bet. Oh boy. Mike Mazurki. And so it would go. There was Webb Overlander, Wayne's makeup man for 20 years, hunched in a blue windbreaker, passing out sticks of juicy fruit. Insect spray, he would say. Don't tell us about insect spray. We saw insect spray in Africa, all right. Remember Africa? Or steamer clams. Don't tell us about steamer clams. We got our fill of steamer clams, all right, on the Hatari appearance tour. Remember bookbinders? There was Ralph Volke, Wayne's trainer for 11 years, wearing a red baseball cap and carrying around a clipping from Hedda Hopper, a tribute to Wayne. This Hopper's some lady, he would say again and again. Not like some of these guys, all they write is sick, sick, sick. How can you call that guy sick? When he's got pains, coughs, works all day, never complains. That guy's got the best hook since Dempsey, not sick. And there was Wayne himself, fighting through number 165. There was Wayne, in his 33-year-old spurs, his dusty neckerchief, his blue shirt. You don't have too many worries about what to wear in these things, he said. You can wear a blue shirt, or if you're down in Monument Valley, you can wear a yellow shirt. There was Wayne in a relatively new hat, a hat which made him look curiously like William S. Hart. I had this old cavalry hat I loved, but I lent it to Sammy Davis. I got it back. It was unwearable. I think they all pushed it down on his head and said, "Okay, John Wayne," a joke. There was Wayne, working too soon, finishing the picture with a bad cold and a racking cough, so tired by late afternoon that he kept an oxygen inhaler on the set. And still nothing mattered but the code. "That guy," he muttered, of a reporter who had incurred his displeasure. "I admit I'm balding. I admit I got a tire around my middle. What man, 57, doesn't? Big news. Anyway, that guy." He paused, about to expose the heart of the matter, the root of the distaste, the fracture of the rules that bothered him, more than the alleged misquotations, more than the intimation that he was no longer the Ringo Kid. He comes down, uninvited, but I ask him over anyway, so we're sitting around drinking mezcal out of a water jug. He paused again, and looked meaningfully at Hathaway, readying him for the unthinkable denouement. He had to be assisted to his room. They argued about the virtues of various prize fighters. They argued about the price of J&B in pesos. They argued about dialogue. As rough a guy as he is, Henry, I still don't think he'd raffle off his mother's Bible. I like a shocker, Duke. They exchanged endless training table jokes. "You know why they call this memory sauce?" Martin asked, holding up a bowl of chili. "Why? Because you remember it in the morning. Hear that, Duke? Hear why they call this memory sauce?" They delighted one another by blocking out minute minute variations in the free-for-all fight, which is a set piece in Wayne's pictures. Motivated or totally gratuitous, the fight sequence has to be in the picture, because they so enjoy making it. "Listen, this will be really funny. Duke picks up the kid, see, and then he takes both Dino and Earl to throw him out the door. How's that?" They communicated by sharing old jokes. They sealed their camaraderie by making gentle, old-fashioned fun of wives, those civilizers, those tamers. So Senora Wayne takes it into her head to stay up and have one brandy. So for the rest of the night, it's, "Yes, Pilar, you're right, dear. I'm a bully, Pilar. You're right. I'm impossible." You hear that? Duke says Pilar threw a table at him. "Hey, Duke, there's something funny. That finger you hurt today. Get the doc to bandage it up. Go home tonight. Show it to Pilar. Tell her she did it when she threw the table. Make her think she was really cutting up." They treated the oldest among them respectfully. They treated the youngest fondly. "You see that, kid?" they said of Michael Anderson Jr. "What a kid." "He don't act. It's right from the heart," said Hathaway, patting his heart. "Hey, kid," Martin said, "you're going to be in my next picture. We'll have the whole thing, no beards, the striped shirts, the girls, the hi-fi, the eye lights." They ordered Michael Anderson his own chair, with Big Mike tooled on the back. When it arrived on the set, Hathaway hugged him. "You see that?" Anderson asked. Wayne, suddenly too shy to look him in the eye. Wayne gave him the smile, the nod, the final accolade. "I saw it, kid." On the morning of the day they were to finish Katie Elder, Webb Overlander showed up, not in his windbreaker, but in a blue blazer. "Home, Mama," he said, passing out the last of his juicy fruit. "I got on my getaway clothes." But he was subdued. At noon, Henry Hathaway's wife dropped by the commissary to tell him that she might fly over to Acapulco. "Go ahead," he told her. "I get through here, all I'm going to do is take Secanal to a point just this side of suicide." They were all subdued. After Mrs. Hathaway left, there were desultory attempts at reminiscing, but man's country was receding fast. They were already halfway home, and all they could call up was the 1961 Bel Air fire, during the Henry Hathaway had ordered the Los Angeles Fire Department off his property and saved the place himself by, among other measures, throwing everything flammable into the swimming pool. "Those fire guys might have just given it up," Wayne said. "Just let it burn." In fact, this was a good story, and one incorporating several of their favorite themes, but a Bel Air story was still not a Durango story. In the early afternoon, they began the last scene, and although they spent as much time as possible setting it up, the moment finally came when there was nothing to do but shoot it. Second team out, first team in, doors closed. The assistant director shouted one last time. The stand-ins walked off the set. John Wayne and Martha Heyer walked on. All right, boys, silencio, this is a picture. They took it twice. Twice the girl offered John Wayne the tattered Bible. Twice John Wayne told her that there's a lot of places I go where that wouldn't fit in. Everyone was very still. And at 2:30 that Friday afternoon, Henry Hathaway turned away from the camera, and in the hush that followed, he ground out a cigar in a sand bucket. "Okay," he said. "That's it." Since the summer of 1943, I had thought of John Wayne in a number of ways. I thought of him driving cattle up from Texas and bringing airplanes in on a single engine. Thought of him telling the girl at the Alamo that republic is a beautiful word. I had never thought of him having dinner with his family and with me and my husband in an expensive restaurant in Chapultepec Park. That time brings all odd mutations, and there we were one night that last week in Mexico. For a while, it was only a nice evening, an evening anywhere. We had a lot of drinks, and I lost the sense that the face across the table was in certain ways more familiar than my husband's. And then something happened. Suddenly the room seemed suffused with the dream, and I could not think why. 3 men appeared out of nowhere, playing guitars. Pilar Wayne leaned slightly forward, and John Wayne lifted his glass almost imperceptibly toward her. "We'll need some Poulet-Foussé for the rest of the table," he said, "and some red Bordeaux for the Duke." We all smiled, and drank the Poulet-Foussé for the rest of the table, and the red Bordeaux for the Duke. And all the while the men with the guitars kept playing, until finally I realized that they were playing. What they had been playing all along. The Red River Valley, and the theme from The High and the Mighty. They did not quite get the beat right, but even now I can hear them, in another country and a long time later, even as I tell you this. I'm going to finish up with some Frank O'Hara. I'm going to start with animals. Have you forgotten what we were like then when we were still first rate and the day came fat with an apple in its mouth? It's no use worrying about time, but we did have a few tricks up our sleeves and turned some sharp corners. The whole pasture looked like our meal. We didn't need speedometers. We could manage cocktails out of ice and water. I wouldn't want to be faster or greener than now if you were with me. Oh, you were the best of all my days. This one's called My Heart. I'm not going to cry all the time, nor shall I laugh all the time. I don't prefer one strain to another. I'd have the immediacy of a bad movie, not just a sleeper, but also the big, overproduced, first-run kind. I want to be at least as alive as the vulgar, and if some aficionado of my mess says that's not like Frank, all to the good. I don't wear brown and gray suits all the time, do I? No. I wear work shirts to the opera, often. I want my feet to be bare. I want my face to be shaven, and my heart... You can't plan on the heart. But the better part of it, my poetry, is open. I've got 2 more. This one's called Having a Coke with You. And I'm not sure I can get all of the words right, but I'm going to try. Having a Coke with you is even more fun than going to San Sebastian, Arun, Hendaye, Biarritz, Bayonne, or being sick to my stomach on the Travesseria de Garcia in Barcelona. Partly because in your orange shirt you look like a better, happier Saint Sebastian. Partly because of my love for you. Partly because of your love for yogurt. Partly because of the fluorescent orange tulips around the birches. Partly because of the secrecy our smiles take on before people and statuary. It is hard to believe when I'm with you that there could be anything as still, as solemn, as unpleasantly definitive as statuary when right in front of it in the warm New York 4 o'clock light we are drifting back and forth between each other like a tree breathing through its spectacles. And the portrait show seems to have no faces in it at all, just paint. And you wonder why in the world anyone ever did them. I look at you, and I would rather look at you than all the portraits in the world. Except possibly for the Polish writer occasionally, and anyway, it's in the Frick, which thank heavens you haven't gone to yet, so we can go together for the first time, and the fact that you move so beautifully more or less takes care of futurism, just as at home I never think of the nude descending a staircase, or at a rehearsal a single drawing of Leonardo or Michelangelo that used to wow me. And what good does all the research of the Impressionists do them when they never got the right person to stand near the tree when the sun sank? Or for that matter, Marino Marini, when he didn't pick the rider as carefully as the horse. It seems they were all cheated of some marvelous experience which is not going to go wasted on me, which is why I'm telling you about it. Finally, adieu to Norman, bonjour to Joan and Jean-Paul. It is 12:10 in New York, and I am wondering if I will finish this in time to meet Norman for lunch. Lunch, I think I am going crazy. What with my terrible hangover and the weekend coming up at excitement-prone Kenneth Coke's. I wish I were staying in town and working on my poems at Joan's studio for a new book by Grove Press, which they will probably not print, but it is good to be several floors up in the dead of night, wondering whether you are any good or not, and the only decision you can make is that you did it. Yesterday, I looked up the Rue Fremicourt on a map, and was happy to find it like a bird, flying over Paris, et ses environs, which unfortunately did not include Seine-et-Oise, which I don't know, as well as a number of other things, and Alan is back talking about a god a lot, and Peter is back not talking very much, and Joe has a cold and is not coming to Kenneth's, although he is coming to lunch with Norman. I suspect he is making a distinction, well, who isn't? I wish I were reeling around Paris, instead of reeling around New York. I wish I weren't reeling at all. It is spring. The ice is melted. The Ricard is being poured. We are all happy and young and toothless. It is the same as old age. The only thing to do is simply continue. Is that simple? Yes, it is simple because it is the only thing to do. Can you do it? Yes, you can, because it is the only thing to do. Blue light. Over the Bois de Boulogne it continues. The Seine continues. The Louvre stays open, it continues, it hardly closes at all. The Bar Americain continues to be French. De Gaulle continues to be Algerian, as does Camus. Shirley Goldfarb continues to be Shirley Goldfarb, and Jan Hazen continues to be Jane Frischler, I think, and Irving Sandler continues to be the Bailleur des Artistes, and so do I. Sometimes I think I am in love with painting. And surely the Piscine de Ligny continues to have water in it, and the floor continues to have tables and newspapers and people under them, and surely we shall not continue to be unhappy. We shall be happy, but we shall continue to be ourselves. Everything continues to be possible. René Char, Pierre Reverdy, Samuel Beckett. It is possible, isn't it? I love Reverdy for saying yes, though I don't believe it. Thank you all for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it, as I certainly did.